From pop culture to politics, this is the Michael Medved Show.
And another great day in this greatest nation on God's green earth. A great day when a great agreement, is it really a great agreement, is now signed, apparently signed yesterday, long distance. We will get to that. But the question is it an agreement that is a victory for the United States or a capitulation? There's a very strong opinion on that issue by Tom Nichols, who's been, I'm proud to say, a regular guest of this show. He's a staff writer at The Atlantic and a contributor to the Atlantic Daily newsletter. His books include The Death of Expertise and Our Own Worst Enemy. He has taught for more than 2 decades at the Naval War College, and he has a new column that says Trump does not understand the war he lost. Tom, the first question that I think people would ask would be right in the title of your column. You suggest that we lost the war. What's the indication that that is the case?
What's the indication that isn't the case is really the question, Michael. Which side achieved its strategic aims? We can be formal about this and talk about Clausewitz and say war is an act of violence to compel our enemy to do our will. Well, who's doing whose will here? We did a lot of damage to Iran. We, destroyed a big chunk of their military capability. As it turns out, not all of it. And we're the ones now saying, yes, we will open up the pathway to reparations. Yes, you can have ballistic missiles. Yes, we recognize that you can enrich. Yes, we recognize you as the regime of that runs Iran. Of course, this war was about regime change from day one, and that failed. Who didn't get their strategic aims? Well, we have a vague promise. Trump says it's about nuclear weapons. We have a vague promise from the Iranians not to create a nuclear weapon. We had that 10 years ago in the JCPOA that Obama negotiated. The Strait of Hormuz will be open, we said. But from now on, the world understands that it's open at the sufferance of the Iranians, something that was not the case before this war.
They also are going to be charging for some traffic there. Don't they get some kind of financial benefit from operating the Strait of Hormuz?
We keep saying they can't charge tolls, and the Iranians keep saying, we won't charge tolls, we'll charge fees.
Which is so much better.
We went to war with the aim of toppling this regime and bringing them and everything they do to an end. We ended this war not only by acquiescing to everything they wanted, but on top of that, telling our ally, the Israelis, to cool their jets and not be so hysterical about little pinpricks, and I'm using Trump's words here, little pinpricks like Hezbollah. Now, you tell me, if you were a neutral observer, from Mars, and you came down and you looked at the 4 months of this war, who would you say won and who would you say was defeated?
Okay, so what does Trump need to do? Because the skepticism about this deal, even from his own party, even from the Republicans in the Senate and in the House, who he needs, because you can't, if you're isolated from your own party, even if they have a tenuous majority in the House and the Senate, you can't get very much done. What should Trump do in the last 2 days, it's today and tomorrow, before he's scheduled to have this, the big formal signing is going to be in Switzerland, right?
Well, he's already signed it, and I can't believe I'm
that's
saying
AutoPen.
No, he signed it yesterday in, wait for it, Versailles. Do people just not read books anymore? He literally sat next to Emmanuel Macron. Now, apparently there could be another, who knows? But Donald Trump's signature and the president or the president of Iran's countersignature, which came today on this day that we're talking here on a Thursday, that's done. It's done and dusted. It's over. So what does Trump need to do? Nothing. He's done the one thing the only thing he could do, which was to get out of this disastrously stupid war, so that the international economy and by extension the American economy can bounce back. And thank God that nobody else is going to get killed. No other Americans are going to, risk their lives here. But this thing was a failure all the way down the line. And Trump has now signed the instrument, call it whatever you want, the MOU, the instrument of surrender, the declaration of failure, whatever it is. And now we enter this 60-day period where Trump and his surrogates are out there saying, well, if we don't get what we want, over the next 2 months, we can just start the war up all over again. Nobody believes that. The Iranians don't believe that. Unless you think Donald Trump around Labor Day, as America goes into midterm elections, is going to send everybody back to the Gulf and start bombing and risk American lives and cripple the international economy again, which I don't believe. So we're going to begin this 60 days of a kabuki, where they're going to pretend to negotiate and we're going to pretend that it's okay. But it's all over. I mean, yesterday you literally had Republican senators agreeing with Donald Trump that, well, yes, of course, Iran needs missiles for its own self-defense. 4 months ago, one of the stated war aims was to completely destroy Iran's stocks of missiles.
What about the fact that they don't promise to really dismantle their nuclear program? What they say is we've never had a nuclear program. We've always been against it. I mean, the language of the agreement, we seem to accept the fact that they have had a fatwa, they have been opposed to nuclear weapons, and all of these worries we've had about it are fallacious or groundless.
Well, we walked right into it, Michael. Pledge that you'll stop, that you won't make nuclear weapons. And they'll say, fine, we reiterate the thing we said 10 years ago, that we will stop doing the thing we weren't doing anyway. Now, that doesn't mean I trust the Iranians. I think the Iranians have clever for 25, 30 years, they've cleverly played this game of saying, we don't have a nuclear weapon. We just have all the parts and all the machinery that would make a nuclear weapon scattered around here. Now, we haven't put all those together, so we don't actually have a bomb. Now, if you think we're going to make a bomb, that's your problem. And so, in my opinion, the JCPOA was flawed. I said so at the time. I thought it delivered too much benefit up front. And it also gave Iran, because we said, look, they're going to stop messing around with nuclear weapons. We did nothing to stop them from building up tons of conventional weapons, as we learned the hard way in this war, that they would have a lot of drones.
Okay, so the question now.
So now the problem here is that they're saying, well, fine, we won't make nuclear weapons. We never were, but we're going to keep doing all this other stuff. And by the way, you guys had an inspection regime about nuclear stuff, and now you don't. So you're just going to have to trust us because you blew it all up.
Trusting Iran, a good policy for the future. We'll continue the conversation with Tom Nichols. The question becomes also $300 billion with a B, dollars of benefit for Iran. And where is that supposed to come from? Can't be tax money. President Trump says it won't be. We'll talk to Tom Nichols of The Atlantic about what comes next on The Medved Show.
The Michael Medved Show.
Listen.
Nationwide.
Listen.
And around the world at michaelmedved.com.
And listen.
And on the Michael Medved Show, Reuters and Forbes are both reporting that the $300 billion that is part of what is promised to the Iranian regime as a reward for their wonderful constructive behavior. Where's that money going to come from, and what is it exactly buying? That's one of the questions raised by Tom Nichols, who is a contributor to the Daily Atlantic newsletter, writes regularly for the Atlantic. His books include The Death of Expertise and Our Own Worst Enemy, The Assault from Within on Modern Democracy. His new pieces have to do with Trump doesn't understand his defeat in this recent war, and also another column that says Trump celebrates while America capitulates. Okay, Tom, what is the story on that $300 billion, which is an enormous amount of money, particularly for Iran? What are they limited in what they can spend that money on?
No, and that's part of the MOU. Now, Trump is right about one thing. It's not U.S. taxpayer money. Neither was it in the JCPOA. This is going to be a combination of things, including unfreezing assets that the Iranians own, but also allowing the Gulf states who have learned their lesson here that America is the weak horse. They were at Kuwait and other countries, Oman, Qatar. They've seen that Iran will lash out and inflict violence on them for cooperating with the United States. And so this is like setting up a trust fund, $300 billion, reconstruction. And it's very plain from the language that what the Iranians do with it is basically none of our business. If you thought the JCPOA was bad, this has really been kind of an interesting thing to watch. Trump's very right-wing critics saying, this is like Obama on steroids. This is now there was another rumored part of the deal about unfreezing assets immediately, some $12 billion and then another $12 billion in 2 months. I didn't see that in the deal. Be curious to see if that happens anywhere. But in the end, we are saying to a regime that we tried to topple because 4 months ago we said this is one of the most existentially evil regimes in the world, that yes, we will help you set up a $300 billion reconstruction fund from your neighbors, and we won't ask you where the money's going or what you're doing with it.
So one of the questions that is on the table, very much on the table, has to do with Israel and whether the United States is going to take action to compel Israel to keep a promise about withdrawing any forces from Lebanon. And the forces are there to protect Israel from being attacked by missiles that are paid for by the Iranians from Hezbollah. Michael Oren, the former ambassador from Israel to the United States, has just said that this is one of the most serious splits between two allies, the Americans and the Israelis, ever. How is this likely to work itself out?
Well, let's start with what the president said. These missiles, they can't blow up the world. They can just cause some problems in a little place. Now you can imagine where he was referring to. I mean, Trump has had enough of Bibi Netanyahu. He wants out of this war, and so he threw Netanyahu, for whom I shed no tears, under the bus. Now, shed a few more tears for the Israelis, who are going to be in danger from this. But this is what happens when you think you can work with Donald Trump. Trump does not understand international politics, doesn't care about it, thinks that all countries are basically just subsidiary companies of the big corporation that he owns called the world. And, he just doesn't care. And so, sure, it's a huge split. And the way he talked about Israel was demeaning and insulting. And basically yesterday, 2 days ago in Paris, he basically said, look, I'm paraphrasing. He's like, the Israelis need to calm down. They need to stop being hysterical about these little pinpricks like Hezbollah and, missiles that can't really blow up the whole world, just little parts of a little country. It's insane. but he wanted out. This war no longer served his interests. It made him uncomfortable. He wanted out, and that's the end of it. So now the Israelis are left listening to the president of the United States saying, well, if Saudi Arabia can have missiles, and why can't Iran have missiles? Because they need them for self-defense too. I never thought I would hear any American president talk that way, certainly not a Republican president. And I imagine the Israelis are in just, shock, that they're just gobsmacked. But, they should have, on this one, I will say, I'm not going to say I told you so. I'll say, what did you expect? You should have seen this coming.
Okay, in terms of what is coming down the road, is the next 60 days when they're supposed to be figuring out some plan of action on the enriched uranium and more, are the next 60 days particularly significant, and what will they bring in their wake?
These next 60 days are not significant. There's no way to work out what to do with all of that nuclear material. Some of it's still buried, some of it's under rubble, some of it's still probably being hidden. No way at this point, with this much war damage, and with the United States and Iran now, having concluded military hostilities, that you're going to sort this out in 60 days. More to the point, Donald Trump doesn't care about this anymore. He's going to move on. He wants to stop talking about it. So he's going to say, yeah, send some negotiators. Marco, send some guys. Send JD. This is going to be his problem. I think it's fascinating the degree to which, by the way, they are sticking this on JD. Like everybody else in the administration, when they said, who created this peace deal? And all the other guys went, not it. And,
right. Well, it's not just on the peace deal. JD was originally one of the skeptics in the administration about going to war in the first place, wasn't he?
Right. Well, and supposedly JD and Pete Hegseth are now the skeptics of the peace deal. Hegseth was all gung-ho about doing it. So, nobody's coming out of this without damage. And what Donald Trump wants is for you Americans and you excitable Israelis to all stop talking about it, because he has other things he wants to do now, and he doesn't want to be associated with any of this failure.
Well, like fixing the White House, the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool. We will get to that and more. Tom Nichols, his columns most recently about how Trump doesn't understand the war he lost. The columns are full of argument and insight. And you should go to michaelmedved.com to read them. Tom, it is always a joy to have you on the show, even when the news is as troubling as it is now. President Trump, with his messages this morning, we will get to coming up on the Medved Show. President Donald Trump signed the U.S.-Iran agreement yesterday. He did it on Wednesday, concluding his trip to Europe for the G7 summit. He was there in France for the G7 summit. There is going to be another gathering, some kind of formal signing, supposedly, in Switzerland, but that seems to be uncertain and on hold. The White House, after he signed the document in Europe, the White House sent a photo of a signed copy to Tehran, where the Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, also signed the document. The agreement says the U.S. will issue waivers allowing Iran to export oil and spells out provisions for reopening the Strait of Hormuz, among other measures. There is also Trump, who's been traveling, found the energy to compare himself to Genghis Khan, Hitler, Napoleon, and Alexander the Great. Where did he do that? In what the Mirror in Britain has called an unhinged flurry of wild claims during his latest Truth Social spree, as well as sharing an essay comparing himself to Alexander the Great and Genghis Khan and Hitler. The U.S. president took aim at his political opponents, old and new. And one of the more brief and to the point statements that he included in this Truth Social spree. It says, "These fools who think I haven't been tough enough on Iran when the stock market just hit a record high and oil prices are tumbling down are either jealous, bad people, or stupid. Make America great again," and then 4 exclamation points, President DJT. Donald Trump has taken to social media, it says in the Mirror, to unleash a torrent of unhinged posts covering everything from his White House renovations to wild claims against Kamala Harris. In true Trump fashion, he was posting over a period of around 8 hours into the night as he flew from Paris, France, following the G7 meeting and the signing of the Iran-U.S. deal. His posting continued even after he landed at Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. He frenetically bounced from topic to topic, from Iran to the White House ballroom, chip manufacturing, to boasting about himself. Another of his posts focused on his former political opponent, Kamala Harris, who he beat to win the 2024 election. He shared a list allegedly authored by shock jock Michael Savage of wild accusations about what America would have turned out to be if Kamala Harris had won. The claim included that cartels would now control small cities, the Electoral College would be disbanded, China would have taken Taiwan, and a mandatory hijab day would have been established in America. None of these wild accusations is remotely verifiable, but they came as Trump was branded creepy for a totally inappropriate move on French President Emmanuel Macron's wife, who has also been accused of actually being a man, like the charges against Michelle Obama. In another post, President of the United States shared a letter which compared Trump to Napoleon, Hitler, Alexander the Great, and Genghis Khan, while saying that Trump is more powerful than all of them due to his global reach. U.S. power combined with a man willing to use it makes Trump, quote, by far the most powerful person that has ever walked this planet. Sharing the essay, Trump wrote, President historian Dave King. He's not a presidential historian that anyone's ever heard of. Sounds good to me, said Trump, to being compared to Hitler and Genghis Khan. Even ever a lover of gold statues, in another post, Trump posted about renovations of one of the Arts of War statues standing at the end of Memorial Bridge, which were sculpted by Leo Friedlander, sharing a picture of the statue getting a fresh layer of gold leaf. Trump wrote, the statue Valor, one of the Arts of War statues, is almost completely regilded by our great Department of the Interior. Writing against his critics, Trump called them these fools who think I haven't been tough enough on Iran. In his sprawling rant, he returned to one of his favorite current topics, the White House ballroom. Now, this is interesting. Talking about the White House ballroom, Trump claimed the controversial project, which is mired in legal challenges, is coming along fantastically. That is according to his latest update. The president claimed that the work is turning out to be on time and under budget, but he didn't provide any proof or indication of that. He also took the opportunity to throw an insult at the former chair of the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell. Writing on Truth Social, Trump said, the ballroom is coming along fantastically well. It's on time and under budget, unlike the Federal Reserve building, where Too Late has done a terrible job of cost and time control, and at a much and he then at a much higher quality than I ever promised. That's the work on the ballroom, including a new drone port and all of the other many military elements, which no ballroom should be without, which are vital for national security, that are being built throughout the whole integrated, coherent, and cohesive project. Like most of his projects, they comment in the newspaper, the ballroom is facing a lawsuit claiming he sidestepped the public review process and failed to obtain congressional approval before beginning the work. It comes after Trump went off on a rant at the stupid son of a beep Obama amid a scandal over wife Michelle. Well, there is a lot of criticism of Obama, which has to do, and it's out there, and it's not limited to Trump and his immediate circle or even his supporters. Criticism about the new Obama Presidential Center and Museum that is opening up in Chicago, officially opening tomorrow. We will get to some of that. There is also more about Vice President Vance, who held a press conference at the White House this morning because President Trump is traveling. And why is it that Vance, the vice president, has taken the unusual role of being the lead defender for a very controversial and complicated piece of understanding and diplomacy that is now signed by both the United States in the person of President Trump and the official president of the Islamic Republic of Iran? Why is it that there are so many GOP critics who aren't buying Trump's Iran deal? We'll get to that and more coming up on The Medved Show.
Join in your daily dose of debate.
I listen to you occasionally when I'm driving. It turns my stomach every time I do.
The Michael Medved Show.
Need a laptop that's built to perform and designed to last all day? Select Windows 11 PCs starting at $499.99 are now at Best Buy. Learn more at bestbuy.com. Best Buy. Imagine that.
And on the Michael Medved Show, there is some good news for President Trump. The basically breaking from the New York Times, the average price of U.S. gasoline fell below $4 a gallon today for the first time in months after Iran and the United States signed the preliminary agreement to cease hostilities for 60 days and to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The national average for a gallon of regular gasoline fell to a fraction of a penny below $4, down from $4.03 the day before. That, according to the American Automobile Association. Okay, good news, positive news for the country, and not just for President Trump, but there is this also from Reuters and Forbes. The $300 billion for reconstruction and economic development for Iran is a proposed private investment vehicle. The magazines make clear, not a U.S. government grant or a taxpayer payout. The funding structure for that $300 billion that is supposed to be going to Iran is detailed in a few key ways. Number one, international and private investors. The capital is intended to come from international private sector companies in Gulf Arab states, the same countries, by the way, that Iran has been hitting with missile and drone attacks, including Oman and Bahrain and Kuwait. But they are eager, it is said, to improve relationships and to invest in Iranian energy, logistics, and infrastructure once sanctions are lifted. And then there is a strict conditional access. Iran will only gain access to this fund if it fully complies with the peace agreement. This requires dismantling its nuclear program, eliminating enriched materials, and accepting rigorous international inspections. There's nothing in detail about the nature of inspections. They had inspections also that were supposed to be taking place under the deal that Obama structured, the joint comprehensive plan of operations, JCPOA. In any event, this is all on the positive side. But meanwhile, the reaction, including from some of President Trump's fellow Republicans, has not been positive to the agreement, to the memorandum of understanding. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, on the other hand, well, he was just brimming with enthusiasm and optimism about this new deal. Here is Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, who is leaving the U.S. Senate. He lost a primary, but he is now the senior senator from Louisiana. Here's Senator Cassidy, clip 7.
This will go down as a tremendous foreign policy blunder. Iran ends up stronger. Our allies in the region are weaker. And Iran has learned that if they're willing to grab that Strait of Hormuz and choke it off, they can get the Western world to dance to their tune. I think it's a deep mistake.
Okay, he's not the only one. Ted Cruz, who is one of the most outspoken Republicans in the U.S. Senate on just about everything, ripped President Trump's negotiated Iran deal, speaking to a reporter while walking through the halls of the Capitol building. He talked about giving billions of dollars to Iran, as we just discussed. Here is Senator Ted Cruz, clip 20.
Giving billions of dollars to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us is not a good idea. I think the president, unfortunately, is receiving bad advice on this deal.
What about the tolls for the strait? It's another one that Democrats are criticizing.
Setting up Iran to be in charge of the Strait of Hormuz in perpetuity and to charge tolls is not in America's interest. In my view, the Ayatollah should not reap a single penny from the free transit of the seas.
The defense for President Trump from the Senate, Senator Tuberville of Alabama, who is also leaving the Senate. He is running for governor of Alabama. He is likely to be the next governor of Alabama. But Senator Tuberville defended President Trump and Vice President Vance from criticism about the Iran deal. This is clip 12.
Of course, they have a terrible track record.
Well, they don't have a track record. They're awful. They're batting 1,000% of lying to us every time they do some kind of deal. But I trust President Trump. I trust Vice President Vance. We don't need to listen to anybody up here on Capitol Hill. Let's trust these two. They've been at this now since they've been in office. We're fortunate that our first strike was a perfect strike on about 50 to 55 of their leaders, Larry. And at the end of the day, it's the only time in my lifetime that we've had this opportunity. So let's take advantage of it and let's put the pressure on them. And again, like he said, all heck will break loose if they break this treaty.
Okay, he will have less contributions to foreign policy when he becomes governor of Alabama. There is a very important editorial in the Wall Street Journal that asks the most pressing question of the moment. Is Iran really a normal country? And the subheading for that editorial says, the Trump deal only works if the regime abandons Islamic revolution. it hasn't in 47 years. We will get to that and also get to some of the positive news and the economy, where the market seems to be up again today, and that might be related to the actual drop in the cost of gas, which is noted across the country today. We will also be talking to a dispute involving the world of baseball and involving a celebration of Pride Night for the San Francisco Giants, which provoked a rebellious gesture on the part of some of the members of the team, and now it's become a political issue with Senator Hawley of Missouri raising the issue of biblical notes, biblical verses that were written on caps that were designed, rainbow caps, for Pride Night at the San Francisco Giants game. We will get to that as well on the Medved Show, and to some of the positive reactions to the new head of the Federal Reserve System, giving President Trump, again, some of the personnel that he says he needs. And how is J.D. Vance doing in his current tryout for the big job, which is what people talk about? And Vice President Vance was actually asked about a comment from President Trump, who had said that he was going to blame Vice President Vance if the talks with Iran go sideways, because Vance is playing an increasingly important role in handling not just the negotiations, but the selling of the agreement. The initial efforts to sell his deal with Iran to end his hostilities and reopen the Strait of Hormuz did not win over many new adherents yesterday or today. It's a 14-point memorandum of understanding, MOU, which was read out the text, the entire text, on a call with reporters before the signatures. We will get to that and more, all coming up on an eventful day for this greatest nation on God's green earth.